Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to deep dive into something pretty fascinating. The connection between your gut and your brain.
Yeah. It's a link that's often overlooked.
But all this new research coming out.
Oh, yeah. We're learning a lot about it, especially when we start talking about some of the more serious stuff like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Right. Some pretty heavy hitters there. So we're going to be looking at some really interesting research articles today. And also, we've got some insights from traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, cool. Always interested in that.
Yeah, and I think that'll bring a different perspective to things. We'll be looking at how the gut microbiome impacts these neurodegenerative diseases, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and also how we might be able to actually restore gut health.
So almost like a detective story, trying to find the clues in the gut that might help us understand and maybe even treat these really complex brain disorders.
Absolutely. All right, so first things first, what exactly is this gut microbiome we keep hearing about? It's not just some random bacteria hanging out down there, right? What's the big deal?
Right. So it's a whole lot more than just digestion, although, that is a pretty big part of what it does. But think of your gut microbiome as a whole ecosystem, almost like a rainforest.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, teeming with life, right? We're talking to trillions of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other microorganisms all interacting with each other and with your body.
So it's not just the number of bacteria, but the whole ecosystem working together that matters.
Exactly. And it's definitely not passive. It plays a big role in your immune system. It helps you metabolize the nutrients from your food, produce those essential vitamins. It's even involved in detoxifying harmful compounds.
So it's like a personal chemical factory in there, working nonstop.
Exactly.
Pretty incredible. So how does this bustling little city in our gut connect to something as complex as the brain? What's the communication line?
Well, that's where this fascinating concept of the gut-brain axis comes in. It's this intricate two-way communication highway between the gut and the brain.
So it's a real biological connection, not just like those butterflies in your stomach feeling.
Right, exactly. It's not just in your head, so to speak. And what's really amazing is that what's going on in your gut can directly impact your brain. And the other way around, too. Brain health affects gut health.
So it's a two-way street.
Yep. And some of the most compelling evidence we have for this connection comes from Parkinson's disease.
Oh, yeah. I was reading about how constipation is often one of the very early symptoms of Parkinson's, even before those more noticeable motor symptoms start showing up.
Right. And that's a pretty strong indication that something's not quite right in the gut. And it might even be playing a part in how the disease actually develops.
I remember reading about that study where they took fecal matter from Parkinson's patients and transplanted it into mice. And the mice started showing Parkinson's-like symptoms.
Yeah, that was a big one. Groundbreaking, really. Because it highlighted just how powerful the gut microbiome can be. It really showed us that the gut environment itself could actually contribute to neurological problems.
Wow. Okay, so then what's going wrong in the gut? Who causes these issues in the first place?
Well, the main culprit is something called dysbiosis. And it's basically an imbalance in the gut microbiome, like that rainforest getting thrown off balance. Maybe with some invasive species taking over or essential nutrients getting depleted.
So instead of a thriving, diverse ecosystem, you've got something more like a monoculture where things just aren't working the way they should.
Exactly. And this imbalance, this dysbiosis, can lead to all sorts of problems. One of the key issues is that it can disrupt the gut barrier, making it more permeable. Imagine the lining of your gut like a tightly woven fabric. Dysbiosis can make that fabric get all loose and leaky.
Leaky gut. Doesn't sound good. So what happens then?
Well, if that gut lining gets too permeable, it can allow harmful substances like bacterial toxins to leak into the bloodstream. And once those toxins are in the bloodstream, they can travel anywhere, including to the brain. And once they get to the brain, they can trigger inflammation.
So it's not just about digestion anymore. It's about potentially harmful substances getting into the bloodstream and causing problems way beyond the gut.
Exactly. And, we know that chronic inflammation is a major factor in so many diseases, including those affecting the brain. It really shows how intertwined everything is, our gut and our overall health. And speaking of complex systems, it's a good time to bring in how traditional Chinese medicine looks at this connection. TCM.
Okay, TCM. I'm fascinated by it. It's been around for centuries, but what's its take on the gut? How does it approach it?
Well, TCM sees the body as this holistic system. All interconnected, always striving for balance. You've probably heard of yin and yang. those opposing forces that need to be in equilibrium.
Right.
So for optimal gut health, TCM focuses on getting that balance back in the digestive system, addressing those imbalances that could lead to disharmony and ultimately disease.
So it's not about just treating the symptoms, it's more about getting to the root cause and restoring that balance in the whole system.
Exactly. And one of the key tools that TCM uses is herbal medicine. For centuries, TCM practitioners have been using these specific herbs to target various health concerns, including those related to the gut.
So these ancient remedies, are we finding out now that there's actual science behind them?
Yes, we're starting to see some validation of these ancient practices through modern research, like rhubarb, for example. It's been used in TCM for, forever for its digestive benefits. And now research shows that rhubarb can actually modulate the gut microbiome.
Interesting.
It increases the good bacteria, like lactobacillus, while also getting rid of the harmful bacteria.
So like weeding a garden. You're taking out the bad stuff and letting the good stuff thrive.
Yeah, great analogy. And then there's astragalus, known for boosting the immune system.
Yeah.
Studies are showing that it can actually increase the diversity and, the functionality of the gut microbiome. Remember that rainforest analogy?
Oh, yeah.
It's like making that ecosystem even more vibrant and resilient.
Right. And we know that diversity is key for a healthy ecosystem, so it makes sense that it would be the same for our gut.
Exactly. And we can't forget ginseng, another staple in TCM. It's considered an adaptogen, which means it helps your body adapt to stress. And research suggests that it can also help out the gut microbiome, promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria and strengthening the gut's barrier function.
So ginseng is like giving that gut lining a little extra support, making it tougher, so to speak, to prevent those leaks we talked about.
Exactly. And then there's indigo and indirubin. These two compounds that studies show have anti-inflammatory and immune-modulating effects. They can help regulate the gut microbiome and even support communication between the gut and the brain. Remember that gut-brain axis.
It's like TCM has a whole pharmacy of natural remedies ready to go, each one with its own unique way of supporting gut health.
Speaking of pharmacies, there's this really fascinating herbal formula that comes from this book, Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. You might find it pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about this formula.
So it combines a bunch of the herbs we've already talked about: rhubarb, astragalus, ginseng, indigo, indirubin, and they all work together to restore that microbial balance and reduce inflammation. But there's one more powerhouse ingredient in this formula: turmeric.
Turmeric, isn't that the spice that gives curry its yellow color?
That's the one. But turmeric is so much more than just a spice. It's got this potent compound in it called curcumin, which is a really strong anti-inflammatory.
So it adds flavor and fights inflammation. That's pretty impressive.
Right. And when it comes to the gut, curcumin's been shown to enhance the gut's barrier function, making it stronger. And it also promotes the growth of good bacteria. So bolstering those defenses and making sure the good guys are thriving.
It sounds like a carefully crafted formula with all these gut-supporting ingredients, something that's been honed over centuries of TCM wisdom. But before our listeners go running off to make their own concoctions,
Right.
Anything they should keep in mind? Any words of caution?
Absolutely. It's super important to talk to a qualified healthcare professional, especially someone who's knowledgeable about herbal medicine before trying this or any herbal formula. Herbs can have potent effects, and you need to make sure they're right for you and you're taking the right dose.
Safety first. Always good advice. So we've covered the gut microbiome, we've gone through the fascinating world of TCM, but there's one more piece of this puzzle we need to look at: the impact of those functional gastrointestinal disorders, or FGIDs, on the actual structure of the brain.
Yeah, that's another really interesting aspect of this whole gut-brain connection. Conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, and gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, are pretty common, and they can actually lead to changes in the structure of the brain.
Wait, so it's not just about discomfort in the gut. These conditions can actually change the physical structure of the brain.
Exactly. Studies are showing that FGIDs can lead to changes in cortical thickness and surface area in certain parts of the brain. And these changes could be linked to the chronic stress and inflammation that often come along with these conditions.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows how interconnected everything is. If something as seemingly simple as IDS can have an effect on the brain, it really makes you realize how crucial gut health is for overall well-being.
It really does. It's a powerful reminder that what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. You can have these ripple effects throughout the body, including the brain.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of the gut microbiome and its impact on the brain. What do you think is the most important thing for our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that, the gut microbiome is a major player in our bodies. It impacts so much from how we digest our food to, like we've been talking about, brain health. And while this dysbiosis thing can contribute to all sorts of diseases, including these neurodegenerative disorders, there are things we can do to help our gut stay healthy and maybe even lower those risks.
It's kind of empowering to realize that, we're not just along for the ride. We can actually do something about it.
Exactly.
Like we can actually cultivate a healthy gut microbiome.
Through diet, lifestyle changes,
Right.
and even, more targeted interventions like probiotics and prebiotics.
Yeah, those are getting a lot of attention these days. It's pretty amazing to think that this knowledge, understanding all this, could actually be a key factor in preventing cognitive decline and just, promoting healthy aging in general. We've seen how this dysbiosis and inflammation can be a part of neurodegenerative diseases. So it makes sense that if we can support gut health, that might be a way to protect our brains as we get older.
Yeah.
It's almost like a whole new way of thinking about brain health. We've always heard that, eat your veggies, get some exercise, that's good for your brain. But now we're realizing that taking care of our gut microbiome might be just as important for cognitive health as it is for, digestive health.
Right. And there's just so much research happening in this area. It's really exploding. There's still so much more to learn about how the gut and the brain are connected, all the intricacies, and how we can use that knowledge to, help people live healthier lives.
I feel like this is definitely a topic we'll be revisiting as more research comes out. It's so dynamic. But for now, I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on, so to speak.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about all of this, I definitely encourage you to do some of your own research. Read up on it, really pay attention to your gut health, and don't be afraid to talk to your healthcare provider about ways you can support your microbiome. It might just be the key to a healthier brain and a brighter future.
Great advice.
All right, everyone. Well, that's about it for today's deep dive into the fascinating world of the gut microbiome and how it impacts brain health. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and take care of those trillions of tiny friends living in your gut. They might just be your brain's best allies.